Good evening, everyone. Tonight we will step into a world where survival is never guaranteed, where power and wealth don't always protect you from the dangers lurking at every corner. Welcome to the world of the Mali Empire, a realm where wealth and power are not just symbols of prosperity, but also dangerous entanglements that can turn your life upside down. As you step into the heart of this African kingdom, you are immediately struck by its grandeur. The streets of the capital, Timbuktu, hum with the energy of traders from across the globe, gold, salt, and rare goods flowing through markets that sparkle under the African sun. The empire, under the rule of Mansa Musa, is the richest in the world, its wealth unmatched by any nation. But behind this glittering facade lies the brutal reality of survival. In the 14th century, under the reign of Mansa Musa, the Mali Empire reaches its zenith, becoming a symbol of unimaginable wealth. Gold, salt, and other resources make the empire a hub of commerce and power. The world looks in awe as Mansa Musa embarks on his legendary pilgrimage to Mecca, gifting unimaginable amounts of gold to the cities he visits. Yet, this wealth, though it dazzles the world, does not guarantee safety or ease of life for those who live within the empire's vast borders. Imagine yourself in this world. If you were a commoner, perhaps a farmer or a merchant, your life would be far from the luxurious court of the emperor. You would begin your day before sunrise, working the land or engaging in trade. Every action you take is governed by an invisible set of rules, from the way you bow to the elite to the obligations you must fulfill to your lord. If you are a farmer, your harvest feeds the empire, but you must hand over a large portion as tax, leaving you with only enough to survive. The wealth you help generate never touches you directly, and your fate is tied to the demands of the ruling class. The vast wealth of the Mali Empire is built on the labor of commoners like you, but this prosperity comes with a heavy price. As a commoner, you have little say in your life. You work to sustain the empire's economy and the lavish lifestyle of the elite, but you are bound by a rigid class system that leaves you with no room for mobility. No matter how hard you work, no matter how much you contribute to the empire, you are still seen as beneath those who hold the power. And what if you want to escape this fate? The social system of Mali is unforgiving, and escaping your station is nearly impossible. If you were born into a poor family, you will remain poor. If you are born into a noble family, you may rise in status, but only by following the strict rules set by those in power. Even if you have the skills, ambition, or luck to rise above your station, your life is always at the mercy of those who hold the ultimate power, the ruling elite, the military leaders, and of course, the emperor himself. But it's not just your social standing that you have to worry about in the Mali Empire. It's also the ever-present danger that looms over every aspect of your life. The wealth of the empire comes not only from resources, but from trade routes that pass through dangerous desert lands where bandits and rival kingdoms pose constant threats. The military, always ready to defend the empire's borders, is a constant reminder of the instability of power. The empire may be powerful, but it is constantly under threat from external forces and from within. Every day is a reminder that even in a world of great wealth, survival is never guaranteed. As you walk through the markets of Timbuktu, the weight of the empire's power presses down on you. The streets are filled with traders, merchants, and nobles, but it's not just wealth that defines this city. It's the constant reminder that survival here is a delicate balance. You can never be too confident, never too relaxed. One wrong move, one bad transaction, or a misstep in your duties could lead to ruin. Mansa Musa's empire, though unmatched in wealth, is built on a fragile system of power. You must constantly live with the knowledge that your life is dependent on the whims of the elite, on the success of the empire, and on the strength of its military. Even those who are part of the ruling class live in constant fear of rebellion, of political intrigue, and of being overthrown. Could you survive in a world where every action, every word spoken could alter your fate? Could you live in a society where the wealthy live in opulence while you toil away in the fields or in the markets? The Mali Empire, with all its riches, is not just a world of wealth. It is a world of constant danger and uncertainty. In this world, survival is about more than just physical endurance. It's about understanding the delicate balance between power, loyalty, and obedience. As a commoner, your life is shaped by forces beyond your control. You are part of a vast system that values your labor but does not offer you protection or a future. The elite may live in luxury, but they, too, are at the mercy of the forces that govern the empire. The empire may be rich, but it is also unstable, and the price of wealth is often survival. So, what would it take for you to survive in the world of Mali? Could you navigate the complex social hierarchy, the dangerous political landscape, and the constant fear of rebellion and war? Could you make your way in a world where survival is not just about what you can do, but who you are and where you stand in the empire? As you continue your journey through the Mali Empire, you cannot help but feel the weight of its most famous ruler, Mansa Musa, looming over everything. Mansa Musa, often regarded as the wealthiest person ever to live, is a figure that both astounds and terrifies. His story, from humble beginnings to unimaginable riches, is both a testament to the power of Mali and a reminder of the pressures that come with wielding such power. You could say that survival in this empire depends not only on wealth, but on the ability to manage and control it, a lesson Mansa Musa learned well. Mansa Musa's reign in the 14th century brought Mali to its peak. His wealth was beyond comprehension. In fact, during his pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324, he distributed so much gold that it caused the value of gold to plummet across North Africa. He traveled with an entourage of thousands, bringing with him vast quantities of gold, ivory, and other precious goods. His generosity and largesse were legendary, but they also painted a picture of the immense wealth that Mali controlled. Wealth that, while awe-inspiring, also demanded constant management and vigilance. Wealth is a double-edged sword in Mali. It brings both power and vulnerability. As a commoner in the empire, you might catch glimpses of Mansa Musa's wealth and power in the marketplaces of Timbuktu, or through the merchants who bring in exotic goods from distant lands. But no matter how much you might dream of wealth or power, the fact remains that you are a part of a rigid social system. You are bound by your station. The wealth of Mansa Musa is not yours to touch. His gold, his riches, his divine status, all of these things are beyond your reach. What you do not know, however, is that the same wealth and grandeur that make Mansa Musa so revered are also what make him vulnerable. The richer you are in a kingdom like Mali, the more enemies you have, and the more you have to protect. Imagine the pressure that comes with being the richest man in the world. The empire is vast, and its wealth brings prosperity to many, but it also invites conflict. With such an immense fortune comes immense responsibility. Mansa Musa's wealth was not just about acquiring gold and precious goods. It was about controlling the empire, managing the intricate web of politics, trade, and military power. This constant balancing act was not without its dangers. You must always look over your shoulder, because in a world like this, wealth attracts rivals and power invites betrayal. In the Mali Empire, the wealth that Mansa Musa had accumulated was not the result of luck. It was a strategic endeavor that involved conquering vast territories, establishing trade routes, and building alliances with neighboring kingdoms. As you move through the empire, you realize that the wealth Mansa Musa amassed did not come without bloodshed. The empire's resources were gained through conquest and trade, and many people's lives were shaped or destroyed by these efforts. The pressure on Mansa Musa to maintain control over such a vast and powerful empire must have been immense. The wealth of Mali wasn't just a matter of luxury, it was the foundation of an empire. The greater the wealth, the greater the expectations to preserve it. And as Mansa Musa's wealth grew, so did the challenges. Internal political conflicts, the threat of rebellion, and external threats from rival kingdoms all became a part of the delicate balance that Mansa Musa had to manage. The empire's survival depended not just on gold, but on the stability of its political and military structures. As you navigate the streets of Timbuktu, you understand that the grandeur you see is not a guarantee of safety. Mansa Musa's wealth, while impressive, made him a target. His empire, while prosperous, was fraught with danger. You begin to see that in a world like this, power is both a shield and a weapon that can easily turn against you. Could you survive in a world where wealth is both a blessing and a curse? Could you live in an empire where everything, your wealth, your status, your future, depends on your ability to manage the delicate balance of power, loyalty, and military might? In the Mali Empire, wealth may bring power, but it also brings the constant pressure of maintaining that power and fending off those who would seek to take it from you. In this world, Mansa Musa's wealth is a symbol of Mali's greatness, but it is also a reminder of the price one must pay to rule. No one is safe from the pressures of power, not even the wealthiest man in history. As you walk through the bustling streets of Mali's capital, Timbuktu, you can't help but be overwhelmed by the sheer wealth surrounding you. The markets are full of traders from across Africa, the Middle East, and even Europe, all eager to exchange goods. But as you take in the splendor of this mighty empire, you begin to realize that everything here, from the gold-laden walls of the palace to the humble merchant stalls, is interconnected by one thing: trade. In the Mali Empire, the economy is powered by gold, salt, and the relentless drive for power that this wealth brings. Gold is the heartbeat of the empire. Mali is one of the world's largest producers of gold, and this precious resource flows through the empire like lifeblood. Mansa Musa's famous pilgrimage to Mecca, where he distributed so much gold that it caused inflation in Egypt, is a testament to the empire's vast wealth. But what you may not realize is how much of this wealth depends on the rigorous control of gold mines and trade routes. In Mali, gold wasn't just a symbol of wealth, it was the very foundation of the empire's economy and political power. The gold trade brought wealth to the empire, but it also created intense rivalries and competition. Salt, too, is essential. While it may not shine like gold, salt is just as valuable. In a desert environment, salt is more than just a commodity, it's a necessity for survival. The Sahel region, where Mali is located, is rich in salt deposits, and this resource was as valuable as gold. It was used for preserving food, making trade across the desert possible, and was even used as a form of currency. The salt trade brought in wealth and sustained the empire's economy, but it also tied Mali to the vast Sahara Desert and the dangerous trade routes that ran through it. The gold and salt trade are the two cornerstones of Mali's economy, but they are not the only commodities that drive the empire's prosperity. Agriculture plays a crucial role in sustaining the population. Mali's farmers grow millet, rice, and sorghum, and these crops feed not just the common people but also the soldiers and elites. The steady flow of food ensures that the empire's infrastructure can survive the challenges posed by the climate and external threats. The labor of Mali's farmers, then, is as essential to the empire's economy as the precious metals traded across the land. As a merchant, you understand that the flow of goods is the lifeblood of this empire. Your role in the economy is crucial, but it is also fraught with risk. You are constantly navigating the complex web of trade routes that cross the vast desert, and each trip carries dangers. Bandits are a constant threat, and the journey across the Sahara is long and perilous. Yet despite the dangers, the rewards are immense. The markets in Timbuktu and other major trading hubs are filled with goods from all over the world, and the wealth that comes from trading is enough to make a man rich beyond imagination. However, even the wealth of merchants does not guarantee safety. The empire's rulers, particularly Mansa Musa, control the flow of trade, and any misstep in business or failure to meet the demands of the ruling class could lead to ruin. For the commoners, the situation is different. If you are a farmer, your survival is tied to the land. Your labor ensures that food reaches the markets, but you also must pay taxes, often in the form of crops. The state demands a large portion of your harvest, and the rest is barely enough to feed your family. Despite the hardships, you are expected to maintain your work, for the wealth of the empire is sustained by people like you. The empire's prosperity, built on the gold and salt that flows from the earth, is a constant reminder of the delicate balance that holds this empire together. But with this wealth comes the heavy burden of maintaining power. As a citizen of Mali, you live with the constant reminder that you are at the mercy of the rulers and the system they control. The wealth of Mali is not just in its gold or salt, but in its ability to dominate trade and control resources. This creates a power structure that is fragile. One wrong move, one misstep, and the delicate balance that holds the empire together could shatter. For the elites, the commoners, and the merchants alike, survival depends on the constant flow of goods and the ability to navigate the dangers that come with that flow. Could you survive in a world like this, where wealth and power are built on the exploitation of the land and the labor of the people? Could you thrive in an empire where trade is the foundation of everything, but one mistake could ruin you? The Mali Empire is a land of riches, but also of constant pressure. The wealth and power that come with control over gold, salt, and trade bring incredible rewards, but they also make survival in this empire a high-stakes game. Timbuktu, the jewel of the Mali Empire, is a place of unrivaled wealth and culture. As you enter the city, the first thing that strikes you is the grandeur. The golden walls of the buildings reflect the brilliance of the sun, and the air is filled with the sounds of merchants, scholars, and religious leaders. This is where the empire's wealth is concentrated, where the greatest minds gather to discuss science, philosophy, and religion. But beneath this luxurious surface, life in Timbuktu is not as serene as it seems. Survival here, as in the rest of the empire, is governed by strict rules. Rules that are not just about wealth or power, but about maintaining one's place in a constantly shifting social order. If you're fortunate enough to live in the capital, you may find yourself at the heart of the empire's intellectual and economic life. Timbuktu is a city of learning, a place where scholars from all over the Islamic world come to study in its famous libraries and madrasas. The city is a beacon of knowledge, and it plays a crucial role in the spread of Islam and intellectual thought across West Africa. The libraries of Timbuktu hold thousands of manuscripts, many of which are centuries old, detailing everything from astronomy to law to literature. The city is a hub of intellectual activity, and you may feel the weight of its history and importance as you walk through its streets. But for all its wealth and prestige, Timbuktu is not a city for the faint-hearted. The wealthy merchants and scholars live in luxurious homes, but they are constantly surrounded by danger. Political intrigue is common, as the powerful vie for influence within the court of the emperor. Even within the relatively protected walls of the city, violence and betrayal are ever present. There is always the risk that a rival could ruin your life, that a change in the ruling elite could leave you vulnerable. For all its grandeur, Timbuktu is a city where power is constantly shifting, and the common people, even the scholars, must tread carefully. If you are a merchant in Timbuktu, your survival depends on your ability to navigate the complex web of trade that connects Mali with the rest of Africa. the Middle East, and beyond. The wealth that flows through the markets is staggering. Exotic goods, gold, ivory, spices, and textiles are exchanged by traders from all corners of the known world. But the wealth that comes with such trade is accompanied by significant risks. Traveling the trade routes, especially through the Sahara Desert, is perilous. Bandits are a constant threat, and the journey is long and grueling. Even if you make it to Timbuktu, you are not safe from danger. Merchants are at the mercy of the political winds. If the ruling elites change, or if a rival trader makes a powerful connection, your business could be ruined in an instant. For the common people of Timbuktu, life is just as dangerous, if not more so. While the wealthier classes enjoy the fruits of the empire, you are at the bottom of the social ladder. If you are a laborer, a farmer, or a servant, your life is defined by survival. You wake early to work long hours in the fields or in the homes of the wealthy. You are expected to serve the elite, but you receive little in return. Your survival depends on your ability to follow orders, to work tirelessly, and to accept your place in the system. If you fail to meet the expectations placed upon you, if you fall ill or make a mistake, you risk being cast aside. The ruling elites, though they may be wealthy and powerful, are ruthless when it comes to ensuring the smooth running of the empire. The common people, even those who live in the capital, are dispensable, and survival means obeying the rules without question. But perhaps the greatest challenge of living in Timbuktu is the constant awareness that everything is precarious. The wealth, the power, the knowledge, everything is subject to change. The political system that keeps the empire running is built on loyalty, but loyalty is a fragile thing. If a ruler or a merchant falls from grace, so too does the life of the people connected to them. The Mali Empire may seem unshakable, but it is always in danger of collapse. The empire's vast wealth is not enough to protect it from internal strife, external threats, or the failure of its fragile systems. Could you survive in Timbuktu, a city of immense wealth and learning, but also one of constant uncertainty and danger? Could you navigate the complex world of merchants, scholars, and elites, knowing that one mistake could ruin your life? Or would you become one of the many common people who toil away in the shadows, just trying to survive another day? In the end, life in Timbuktu, like life in the rest of the Mali Empire, is about survival. It's about knowing your place in a world where wealth and power are constantly shifting. It's about understanding the intricate dance of politics, trade, and loyalty. It's about surviving in a city where, no matter how high you rise, you are always just one step away from falling. As you continue to explore the vast Mali Empire, the role of slavery looms large, deeply interwoven with the fabric of its prosperity. The empire's wealth and success are not just built on the abundance of gold and salt, but on the labor of countless individuals who have no say in their own fate. Slavery is a harsh reality in this society, and the lives of enslaved people are shaped by the empire's vast economy, trade networks, and political ambitions. But could you survive a day in a world where your life is not your own? A world where survival depends on your ability to endure and obey, with no chance for freedom. The people who find themselves enslaved in Mali are often captured in raids or sold into slavery as a result of debt, punishment, or war. Some are taken from neighboring tribes or regions, while others are born into slavery and will never know freedom. As an enslaved person, your existence is defined by your subjugation. You live under the direct control of your master, who determines your fate, your labor, and your value. While some slaves work in the homes of the wealthy, others are used for much more grueling tasks, working in the fields, mining for gold, or performing other labor-intensive duties that are essential to the empire's economy. You might find yourself as an enslaved worker in the gold mines where the conditions are unbearable, the heat is relentless, the work is backbreaking, and the rewards are non-existent. The empire's wealth is built on the backs of those who mine the earth for gold, and if you are one of these workers, you will experience a life of constant toil and struggle. Gold, which is the lifeblood of the empire, is not just mined by the free people of Mali. Many of the enslaved individuals labor in the harsh conditions of the mines, extracting gold for their masters, with no hope of gaining anything in return. You are a cog in the wheel of the empire's economy, your life defined by your value as a laborer, not as a person. While some enslaved people may serve in the homes of the elite, they still face constant challenges. Enslaved individuals are expected to perform household duties, care for children, or even serve as personal attendants to the wealthy. Though life may be marginally better than the grueling labor in the fields or mines, the reality of being enslaved remains unchanged. You have no rights, no freedom, and no future of your own choosing. Your worth is entirely dependent on your master's needs, and any deviation from their expectations could mean severe punishment. Slavery in Mali is not just about economic exploitation, it is also deeply tied to the social structure of the empire. The wealthy elites of Mali rely on enslaved people to maintain their power and luxury. The wealth of Mansa Musa and the royal family is sustained by the labor of those they subjugate. Slavery allows the ruling class to maintain their status, live in opulence, and ensure the smooth functioning of the empire's economy. Without the enslaved population, the empire would struggle to maintain its wealth, and the powerful would risk losing everything. But the lives of enslaved people in Mali are not without resistance. Though their survival is often dictated by their masters, many find ways to resist, to fight back against their circumstances, and to maintain their dignity. Some enslaved individuals escape to nearby lands, seeking freedom in the wilderness or with other communities. Others form tight-knit groups and try to survive by relying on each other for support. While the chances of success are slim, the desire for freedom is a powerful motivator in a world where everything is controlled by those in power. As you live a day in the life of an enslaved person in Mali, you begin to realize the fragile nature of survival in this empire. Life for the enslaved is a constant battle against exhaustion, against fear, and against the system that seeks to control every aspect of their lives. Could you survive in this world? Could you endure the backbreaking labor, the lack of autonomy, and the constant threat of punishment? Could you navigate a society where your value is based solely on your ability to work, with no room for freedom or self-determination? The empire's wealth may be extraordinary, but it is built on the suffering of others. The wealth that flows through Mali's trade routes, the gold that glitters in the emperor's court, and the riches that fill the royal vaults, all rely on the labor of the enslaved. Could you survive a day in a world where your worth is measured not by your abilities, but by the labor you can provide? In this world, survival is not just about working hard, it's about enduring a life of oppression and cruelty with no end in sight. In the Mali Empire, the question of survival is not just about wealth or status, it's about who controls your life and your labor. The empire's grandeur is built on the backs of those who are enslaved, and their survival depends on the fragile hope that one day they may find freedom. But for most, freedom is a distant dream, and survival means living under the harsh yoke of slavery, day after day, with no end in sight. In a world built on wealth, salt, and gold, the Mali Empire's survival is inextricably tied to its military prowess. While the empire's riches are impressive, it is the strength of its armies that truly ensures its place as one of the greatest powers in West Africa. The Mali military is a force to be reckoned with, and the pressure to defend the empire's borders, maintain order, and suppress rebellion weighs heavily on everyone, from the common soldier to the emperor himself. Survival in the Mali Empire, especially in its military ranks, is no easy feat. Life is as much about strength, loyalty, and strategy as it is about surviving battles that can shape the future of the empire. The Mali military, under the rule of Mansa Musa, is a well-organized and highly disciplined force. The emperor's soldiers are tasked with not just defending the empire's vast territory, but also ensuring that the wealth, power, and prestige of Mali are maintained. In a world where neighboring kingdoms are constantly seeking to expand their own influence and power, the Mali army's role in protecting the empire cannot be overstated. The military is not just about fighting on the front lines, but about maintaining the empire's dominance over a vast swath of land stretching from the Sahara Desert to the forests of West Africa. As a soldier in the Mali army, you understand that every day could be a fight for survival. You rise early, don your armor, and head out to train with your fellow warriors. The training is intense, designed to prepare you for the brutal realities of battle. But even beyond the grueling physical exercises, the mental toll of warfare is always present. You are taught not just how to fight, but how to think strategically, to outwit your enemies, and to anticipate their moves. The Mali military is known for its effective use of cavalry, archers, and infantry, and every soldier is a piece of a much larger machine designed for victory. However, the life of a soldier is far from glamorous. Despite the prestige of serving in the Mali military, the daily existence of a soldier is one of hardship. You are away from your family for months on end, marching across rugged terrain, fighting battles, and engaging in skirmishes with rival kingdoms. Your food is scarce, and your rest is limited. You must constantly be on alert, never knowing when the next battle will come. Even when not fighting, you live in constant preparation for war. For soldiers like you, survival is about much more than physical strength. It's about maintaining the discipline, focus, and resilience necessary to withstand the brutal demands of military life. The risks of military service are significant. In battle, survival is never guaranteed. You could be fighting in a skirmish one moment, and the next, you might be fighting for your life as the enemy closes in. The violence of war in Mali is not just physical, it is also psychological. The empire's vast wealth and the political stability it offers make it a prime target for others. Thus, the stakes of warfare are high. Defeat could mean the loss of everything, the end of the empire's dominance, the destruction of the economy, and the collapse of the political structure. For the soldiers who fight, the pressure to protect Mali's future is immense. But it's not only the external enemies that threaten the empire. As powerful as Mali is, internal threats are just as dangerous. Rebellions are not uncommon, and the threat of an uprising within the empire is always present. The military must also deal with dissidents and rivals who seek to challenge the existing power structures. If you find yourself on the wrong side of the political divide, even as a soldier, your life can be in jeopardy. Political loyalty and alliances are crucial, and switching sides can be fatal. For a soldier in Mali, loyalty to the emperor and the empire is paramount. Betrayal can lead to a swift and brutal end. But the rewards of survival in the Mali military are great. If you succeed in your service, you may be granted land, wealth, and titles. The emperor, Mansa Musa, often rewards his most loyal and capable soldiers with generous gifts and privileges. You may rise through the ranks, earning respect and admiration from your fellow soldiers and the people you protect. The role of a warrior in the Mali Empire is one of honor, but it also comes with immense responsibility. Your survival depends not just on your ability to fight, but on your ability to adapt to the shifting tides of power and warfare. Could you survive in this world where your life depends on military strategy, discipline, and loyalty? Could you face the constant threat of battle where each skirmish could be your last and emerge victorious? The Mali Empire, with its vast riches and unyielding power, is built on the strength of its military, and the warriors who fight to protect it are as much a part of the empire's foundation as the gold and salt that flow through its markets. Survival in this empire isn't just about wealth, it's about the ability to fight, to lead, and to protect what you hold dear. Religion in the Mali Empire is a cornerstone of everyday life, and it plays a crucial role in shaping the way people live, work, and survive. The empire is diverse, with a blend of Islamic and traditional African beliefs influencing its people. The rulers of Mali, including Mansa Musa, are devout Muslims, and the empire's adherence to Islam is integral to its identity. But there is also a deep connection to ancestral worship, animism, and other indigenous African spiritual practices. In Mali, religion isn't just a matter of personal faith. It is a system of rules and rituals that governs every aspect of life, from the food you eat to the way you approach your daily duties. As a member of the empire, your survival depends on your adherence to these spiritual practices. If you are a Muslim, your life is structured around the 5 pillars of Islam, which include prayer, fasting, charity, and pilgrimage. One of the most defining features of the empire during Mansa Musa's reign was the emperor's pilgrimage to Mecca, a journey that solidified Mali's status in the Islamic world. During his pilgrimage, Mansa Musa distributed vast amounts of gold, creating a reputation for Mali that extended far beyond Africa. For you, living under his rule, Islam shapes your life deeply, from the way you greet others to the expectations placed on you by the ruling class. If you are a commoner, your devotion to Islam may be expressed through daily prayer, fasting during Ramadan, and attending mosque services. Islam is a unifying force, bringing people together for religious observance, but it also reinforces the social structure of Mali. The emperor, the nobles, and the religious scholars are the most visible representatives of Islam in the empire. Their adherence to Islamic teachings provides legitimacy to their rule, and their authority is supported by the belief that they are divinely appointed to lead. However, as with all religions, there are complexities. While Islam dominates the elite, the rural areas and the common people hold tightly to their indigenous beliefs. Ancestral worship, animism, and reverence for nature are still integral parts of the daily lives of many. The blending of Islamic and traditional African practices creates a unique religious landscape in the empire. While some people may pray 5 times a day, others may offer sacrifices to spirits or perform rituals to honor their ancestors. The rituals of the earth, water, and the spirits are still respected in many parts of the empire. But survival in Mali's religious landscape is not without risks. The empire's rulers demand loyalty not just to them, but to the faith they espouse. If you practice your own beliefs too openly or refuse to convert to Islam, you risk being marginalized or even persecuted. The tension between traditional African beliefs and the growing power of Islam often leads to conflict, both within families and communities. These divisions can sometimes be fatal, especially when the political and religious elite feel that a group or individual poses a threat to the unity of the empire. For those in power, religion is both a unifier and a tool. Mansa Musa used Islam not only to cement his own authority, but to strengthen Mali's position in the Islamic world. By funding the construction of mosques, supporting scholars, and promoting the study of the Quran, Mansa Musa built an empire that was respected not only for its wealth, but for its piety. But this piety comes with a cost. For you, as a commoner, the pressure to follow the religious practices imposed by the ruling class is immense. To be seen as faithful, to be accepted in society, you must adhere to the rituals and rules set forth by both your rulers and the religion. As you navigate this complex religious environment, you begin to realize that religion in the Mali Empire is not just about faith, it is about survival. You must navigate the expectations of your rulers, the desires of your ancestors, and the demands of your community. Your ability to survive depends on your willingness to conform, to obey, and to practice the religion of the empire. The sacred laws and rituals are not mere suggestions. They are the framework through which your life is defined, and if you fail to adhere to these practices, your survival in Mali could be threatened. Could you survive in this world where your religious beliefs are not just a matter of personal choice, but a matter of life and death? Could you live in an empire where following the rules of religion is the key to your survival, but where your faith could also make you a target? The religious life of Mali is one of constant balance, where the wrong step could lead to ruin, but the right step could ensure you thrive. Whether you are a devout Muslim or a believer in traditional African spirituality, you must navigate the complex world of faith and power, knowing that your survival depends on how well you follow the rules of both. In the Mali Empire, survival depends not just on wealth, religion, or military might, but on your place in the empire's rigid social structure. From the grand palaces of the emperor to the simple huts of the farmers, the empire is divided into distinct classes, and your survival is governed by your social rank. If you were born into wealth, your life would likely be one of luxury and power, but for the majority of the people, survival is about following the rules and maintaining your position in society. At the top of the hierarchy, you have the emperor, Mansa Musa himself. His wealth is legendary and his power is unquestionable. He holds absolute authority over the empire and his word is law. But the emperor's rule is not just about his personal wealth, it is also about maintaining order and the balance of power within the empire. As a commoner, you are required to obey the emperor's commands, even if they are harsh or unjust. Your survival in the empire depends on your ability to keep your place and to perform the work required of you, without question. Just below the emperor are the nobles and military leaders who enjoy privileges far above those of the common people. These individuals live in opulent homes surrounded by luxury. They control the empire's wealth, land, and trade. They hold power not just over their own lives, but over the lives of the commoners and even the merchants who bring in the goods that fuel the empire. The nobles' ability to command armies, trade goods, and influence politics gives them unparalleled power. But even within this elite class, life is not without its dangers. Political intrigue, shifting alliances, and betrayals are constant threats, and survival in this world means navigating these risks carefully. Every move you make could determine whether you remain at the top or fall to the bottom. Below the nobles and military elite are the merchants, who enjoy considerable wealth and status, but are still very much dependent on the decisions made by the ruling class. They hold the power to move goods across vast distances, making them vital to the economy of Mali. However, the wealth of the merchants doesn't grant them the same privileges as the nobles. They are often at the mercy of the elite, whose whims can make or break their businesses. The merchant class is defined by competition, and their survival hinges on their ability to outmaneuver their rivals. A single failed transaction, or the misstep of angering a powerful noble, could lead to ruin. Then come the farmers, laborers, and artisans, the backbone of the empire's economy. As a farmer in Mali, your life is defined by the land you work. You rise before dawn, toil in the fields under the hot African sun, and only rest when the work is done. Your survival depends on the harvest, and yet much of the fruits of your labor are taken from you by the ruling elite. The taxes you pay are heavy, and while you work hard to sustain the empire, you receive little in return. Your life is simple but harsh, and the work is never-ending. For many of you, your family's survival is tied to the success of each crop. But no matter how hard you work, your social position remains unchanged, unless you are fortunate enough to be chosen for a different role. For the majority of Mali's population, life is dictated by one's social rank. There is little room for upward mobility, and the system is designed to keep you in your place. If you are born into poverty, your future is likely to remain poor, no matter how hard you work. Even if you are born into wealth, there are constant pressures to maintain your status and avoid losing your position. The Mali Empire is a world where survival depends on knowing your place and following the rules that keep you there. The social hierarchy is unyielding, and any attempt to move outside of it can lead to dire consequences. The consequences of falling out of favor with the elite are grave. If you anger a noble or break one of the social rules, your entire existence could be upended. The punishment for challenging the system can be swift and severe. Whether you are a commoner or a merchant, the penalty for defying the established order is typically harsh. You could be enslaved, exiled, or even executed. In a world as tightly controlled as Mali, the difference between life and death often comes down to your ability to stay in your designated role. But the fear of falling from grace is only one part of the social struggle in Mali. There is also the constant pressure to survive in a society where loyalty and obedience are the keys to survival. The Mali Empire thrives on order and discipline. The survival of its economy, its military, and its culture depends on the hierarchical structure that keeps everything in place. If you are part of the elite, you must maintain your power. If you are a commoner, you must continue working without question. The delicate balance between these classes is what holds the empire together, and disrupting it could mean the empire's collapse. Could you survive in a world where your every move is dictated by your place in society? Could you endure the pressures of living in a social structure where your survival depends on the whims of those above you? In the Mali Empire, social status is everything, and the struggle to maintain your place in the hierarchy is a constant challenge. One wrong step could send you from the heights of luxury to the depths of poverty, and survival would become a battle for your very existence. In the Mali Empire, the role of women is both complex and critical. The vast wealth and power of the empire are built upon a rigid social structure, but the lives of women are intricately woven into this fabric in ways that are often unseen or overlooked. Whether you are a queen, a merchant, a farmer, or a servant, your survival in this world depends on your ability to navigate the expectations placed upon you by both tradition and the needs of the empire. As a woman in Mali, your social position can vary greatly depending on your status and your relationship to the ruling class. If you are fortunate enough to be a member of the royal family or a noble family, your life may be one of luxury and influence. The women of the royal court, especially in the households of the wealthy elite, play crucial roles in maintaining the power of the family. However, even in these circles, the role of women is shaped by expectations of submission, duty, and sacrifice. The women of Mali's royal family are often married off to create alliances between powerful families. In such marriages, a woman's value is measured by her ability to bear children, especially male heirs. The survival of the family's power is often contingent upon a woman's ability to secure the future of the dynasty. However, despite the relative power that comes with being part of the royal family, a woman's role is still constrained. She may wield influence in private, but public life is typically reserved for the men of the court. The political maneuvering that takes place in the royal family affects not only the men who hold titles, but the women who are used to cement these alliances. In contrast, women of the lower classes live lives that are far less glamorous. As a commoner, your survival is defined by your labor. Women play vital roles in agriculture, domestic duties, and trade. If you are a farmer's wife, your days are filled with the heavy labor of tending to crops, gathering firewood, and preparing food. If you are a merchant, you work in the markets alongside your husband or family members, selling goods and managing the household's finances. Your contributions, though crucial to the survival of the empire's economy, are rarely acknowledged. Despite working as hard as the men, your survival is more precarious because of the systemic inequality that exists within the empire. The social expectations placed upon women are often tied to gender roles that have been in place for generations. In Mali, the roles of men and women are typically divided along traditional lines. Men are expected to handle the physical labor and leadership roles, while women are responsible for maintaining the household, raising children, and supporting the agricultural economy. However, this doesn't mean that women have no power. Women in the Mali Empire are highly respected for their wisdom, and many are involved in spiritual and religious practices. You may find that women are the keepers of traditions, passing down the stories, customs, and knowledge of the empire from one generation to the next. One of the most respected roles for women in Mali is as a religious leader or spiritual guide. If you are a woman with deep spiritual insight, you may become a revered figure in your community. The Mali Empire, with its complex mix of Islam and traditional African religions, provides opportunities for women to rise in the spiritual hierarchy. While religious leadership is often dominated by men, women can hold significant sway within the religious practices of their communities. Women are often called upon to perform rituals, heal the sick, and offer counsel to those in need. These roles offer some degree of autonomy and influence, providing a space for women to exert power within the otherwise patriarchal society. However, it is crucial to note that women's survival in Mali is always linked to their relationships with men. Whether it's your father, your husband, or your son, the men in your life play a pivotal role in your social standing and survival. Women's lives are subject to the decisions made by the men in their families, and the power dynamics within households are often rigidly controlled by patriarchal norms. While some women may find ways to navigate these limitations and rise to positions of influence, many others struggle against the restrictions imposed upon them. For women living in Mali, survival is a balancing act. You must fulfill your duties as a wife, mother, or daughter, while also finding ways to navigate a world that often seeks to silence your voice. The societal pressures placed on you are immense, and the expectations of behavior are strict. One wrong step could lead to social ostracism and even the loss of your place in society. However, despite these challenges, many women in Mali manage to survive and, in some cases, thrive. Women are the backbone of the empire, and their labor, wisdom, and resilience are essential to the continued prosperity of Mali. Could you survive in a world where your existence is shaped by your gender and your survival depends on your ability to follow the rules set by society? Could you navigate a world where women's voices are often suppressed, but their power is still quietly felt? In the Mali Empire, the survival of women is defined by their ability to adapt to the roles imposed upon them, while also asserting their place in the complex web of politics, trade, and religion. In the Mali Empire, trade is the lifeblood of the empire's economy, and at the center of it all is the Sahara Desert, vast, unforgiving, and full of dangers. The desert is not just a barrier to travel, but an essential route for merchants, traders, and travelers to transport gold, salt, and other precious goods from the heart of Mali to the Mediterranean world. As a merchant, you might find yourself preparing for one of the most dangerous and grueling journeys of your life, the trek across the Sahara. The journey from Mali to the Mediterranean is long and treacherous, stretching across thousands of miles of barren, scorching desert. The Sahara is not just a physical landscape, it's a world full of peril, where the threat of dehydration, starvation, and violent storms lurk around every corner. But for the merchants of Mali, this journey is a necessary risk, as it's the only way to connect the empire to the global trade networks. The wealth of Mali depends on this trade, and the survival of its merchants depends on their ability to make it across the desert. As you prepare to cross the Sahara, you gather supplies, water, dried food, and trade goods. The journey will take weeks, and you will travel with a caravan of other merchants and guides, relying on each other for survival. You cannot afford to lose sight of your companions, for the desert can isolate you from the world in an instant. The group is led by an experienced guide, a man who knows the desert's secrets, the hidden oases, the changing winds, and the dangers of the shifting sand dunes. But no amount of preparation can shield you from the harsh realities of the desert. The sun beats down relentlessly during the day, and the temperature soars to unbearable heights. At night, the cold sets in, and the temperature drops drastically, creating a brutal cycle of extremes. The air is dry, the land cracked and barren, and the only sounds are the occasional creak of the camel's saddle or the distant hum of the wind. As you travel, the landscape seems endless, nothing but sand stretching to the horizon, broken only by the rare sight of an oasis. But these oases are not always easy to find, and if you miscalculate, you risk running out of water in a place where the next source could be days or even weeks away. The risks of the Sahara are not only physical but also psychological. As you travel across this vast and empty land, you can't help but feel the isolation setting in. You and your companions are surrounded by nothing but the endless expanse of sand, and with each passing day, you begin to question whether you will make it. Will the caravan reach its destination? Will the camels survive the journey? Will the guides be able to navigate the shifting terrain? The stress of the journey weighs heavily on everyone. But it's not just the elements that you need to fear. As a merchant traveling across the Sahara, you know that the desert is full of other dangers. Nomadic bandits, tribes that live off the desert's lawlessness, roam these desolate lands, preying on vulnerable caravans. These bandits are expert riders, moving quickly across the dunes, and they strike fast, stealing goods, animals, and sometimes even lives. The trade routes are dotted with stories of caravans that were ambushed, leaving behind only the wreckage of their cargo and the bodies of their victims. The threat of banditry is constant, and your survival depends not only on the strength of your caravan, but on your ability to stay alert and prepared. As you continue your journey, you are reminded of the harsh reality of the trade in the Mali Empire. The vast wealth that flows through the empire, enriching the ruling class, is built on these treacherous journeys. Gold, salt, and ivory move through the desert, linking Mali to the Mediterranean world and creating networks of commerce that stretch across Africa and beyond. But these networks come with a price. Lives are lost, goods are stolen, and every day in the desert is a gamble. The caravan you travel with is more than just a group of merchants. It's a lifeline, a community of people who rely on each other for survival. Despite all the challenges, you press on, knowing that your survival depends on the success of this journey. The rewards are immense. The wealth that comes with successful trade is enough to change your life, to buy land, to start a family, or to earn the respect of your peers. But the price of survival is steep, and you understand that the journey across the Sahara is not for the faint of heart. To survive in this world, you must be resilient, resourceful, and above all, willing to face the dangers of the desert. As you finally approach the edge of the Sahara, you look back at the vast, empty expanse that you have crossed. It seems impossible that you've made it through, and yet, here you are, on the brink of success. The journey was long, grueling, and full of danger, but you have survived. Your goods, your gold, your salt, everything you've been transporting is now closer to its destination. You will be rewarded, but the journey you've just completed will haunt you for the rest of your life. The Sahara, in all its beauty and terror, will remain in your memory as the greatest test of survival you have ever faced. As the golden age of the Mali Empire begins to fade, the winds of change sweep through the land. What once seemed like an indomitable force of wealth and power starts to show signs of vulnerability. While Mansa Musa's reign set the empire on its path to glory, it also set the stage for inevitable challenges. The empire, vast in its size and riches, is not impervious to external threats and internal conflicts. As the empire's wealth grew, so did the jealousy and greed of neighboring kingdoms, as well as the difficulties of managing such a vast land. Imagine for a moment that you are living in Mali during the empire's decline. You are a soldier, a merchant, or perhaps just a common farmer, but you are caught in the changing tides of power. The empire that once felt unshakable now seems to teeter on the edge of collapse. The grandeur of Timbuktu and the golden wealth of the emperor can't shield you from the instability that begins to permeate the kingdom. The cause of this decline is not just internal strife, though that plays a significant role. The empire's incredible wealth has led to the erosion of its political and military strength. The ruling class, despite their immense fortunes, finds themselves divided, unable to maintain the unity and centralized control that had once held the empire together. Successive rulers after Mansa Musa struggle to match his accomplishments. The empire's vast territory becomes increasingly difficult to govern, with various provinces and regions growing restless and independent. The leaders of the different regions begin to question the power of the emperor, and the unity of the empire begins to crumble. As a merchant, you notice that trade routes that once flowed smoothly with gold, salt, and ivory now face disruptions. The caravans that once arrived at Timbuktu's grand markets are increasingly intercepted by bandits, and the political instability means that the wealth flowing into the empire is drying up. The once bustling trade routes are no longer as secure, and you find yourself caught in the crossfire of a crumbling empire. For the farmers and common people, the reality is even harsher. The system of taxes, which once ensured that the ruling class remained prosperous, now becomes a crushing burden. Many fall into poverty, unable to meet the demands of the empire's elite. As if internal strife wasn't enough, the empire faces mounting external threats. The Mali Empire, while powerful, is surrounded by rival kingdoms and emerging threats. The Songhai Empire, once a vassal state under Mali's control, begins to rise in power. The Tuareg, Berber, and other desert nomads, once allies or neutral traders, now become increasingly hostile as they seek to control the lucrative trade routes that Mali once dominated. The external pressure mounts, and soon the mighty walls of the empire, which once stood firm against all threats, begin to crumble under the weight of these multiple forces. The collapse of the Mali Empire is not sudden, but gradual. As the empire's borders shrink and trade becomes increasingly difficult, the once flourishing cities like Timbuktu and Gao, which were once centers of wealth, culture, and education, begin to fade. The libraries, filled with priceless manuscripts, deteriorate, and scholars begin to leave the empire, seeking safer havens in other parts of Africa or the Middle East. The knowledge that once flowed through the empire begins to dwindle, and with it, Mali's influence on the world. For the common people, the collapse of the empire brings even more hardship. Life under the rule of Mansa Musa may have been challenging, but it was also a time of relative stability. The empire's decline, however, ushers in an era of chaos, where the once strong military is no longer able to protect you from bandits or invaders. The political and social order that governed Mali is no more, and you, as a commoner, are left to fend for yourself in a world where survival is increasingly uncertain. Could you survive in a world where the empire that once protected you and provided for you is crumbling around you? Could you withstand the external threats and internal divisions that threaten to tear the empire apart? The decline of the Mali Empire is not just a loss of wealth. It is the loss of an entire way of life, a culture, and a system of survival that once thrived. The empire may have been built on gold and salt, but it ultimately fell because it could not adapt to the changing world around it. The fall of the Mali Empire is a somber reminder that no empire, no matter how rich or powerful, is immune to decline. The same forces that built the empire also played a role in its downfall. The struggles of the common people, the greed of the elites, and the external threats from rival powers were all factors that led to the collapse. But in the face of this collapse, survival is possible. If you are willing to adapt, to learn, and to survive, you might find a way to live in the shadow of a fallen empire, even as the world around you changes. As the dust settles after the decline of the Mali Empire, you find yourself standing at the crossroads of history. The once mighty empire, with its immense wealth, vast territory, and great cultural achievements, has fallen. But as you look around, you begin to realize that Mali's legacy is far from erased. The empire's influence continues to reverberate through West Africa and beyond, and its story is one that will never be forgotten. The fall of the Mali Empire did not mark the end of the empire's legacy, it marked the beginning of a new chapter in the region's history. The empire's contributions to the world, particularly in the fields of education, art, and commerce, laid the groundwork for the future civilizations of West Africa. Mali's scholars, who once thrived in the great city of Timbuktu, have left behind a treasure trove of knowledge, manuscripts, books, and teachings that continue to shape the intellectual landscape of Africa today. Many of the manuscripts from Timbuktu, written in Arabic, preserved important Islamic and African philosophies, and they are now considered priceless relics of Mali's golden age. While the Mali Empire may have collapsed under the weight of internal strife and external threats, the culture and knowledge of its people lived on. As you walk through the streets of modern West Africa, you can still see traces of Mali's influence in the architecture, in the art, and in the spoken word. The empire's use of the Manding language, for instance, continues to be spoken by millions in the region. The musical traditions of Mali, which were rich with rhythm, dance, and storytelling, continue to inspire and shape the cultural identity of the people. Perhaps the greatest legacy of the Mali Empire is its role in connecting Africa to the rest of the world. The empire's wealth was not just an isolated phenomenon, it was a product of trade that linked West Africa to Europe, the Middle East, and even Asia. The traders and merchants of Mali forged relationships with people from across the globe, bringing not only goods but also ideas and culture. The empire's connections to the Mediterranean world, the Islamic caliphates, and the ancient kingdoms of Egypt and Persia created a web of exchange that helped shape the modern world. Even after the empire's collapse, these trade routes remained vital to the development of African economies and cultures. The fall of Mali also led to the rise of new empires, including the Songhai Empire, which absorbed much of Mali's former territory. While the Songhai Empire would eventually fall as well, the legacy of Mali's military strategies, governance, and trade practices lived on through its successor. The collapse of one empire does not mean the end of its contributions to the world. It only opens the door for new forces to carry forward its knowledge and power. For the people of Mali and the surrounding regions, the empire's legacy is a source of pride and reflection. It is a reminder that despite the challenges, the Mali Empire remains one of the most impressive civilizations in history. Its achievements in governance, education, culture, and trade are not easily forgotten. Even today, the region continues to celebrate its past and strive to build a future based on the foundations laid by the great empire. The Mali Empire's story, while tragic in its decline, is a testament to the resilience and strength of its people. Despite the political instability, warfare, and internal divisions, the people of Mali managed to create an empire that left an indelible mark on the world. As you reflect on the rise and fall of the Mali Empire, you understand that survival in such a world required not only physical strength, but mental fortitude. To thrive in the Mali Empire, one had to navigate not only the physical challenges of the environment, but also the complex social, political, and economic systems that governed life. Could you have survived in such a world? Could you have faced the challenges that came with being part of an empire so powerful and yet so fragile. In the end, the question of survival in the Mali Empire comes down to understanding the balance between wealth and power, and how those who survived were able to adapt to the constant changes in the empire's structure. Whether you were a commoner, a merchant, a noble, or a slave, survival in the Mali Empire required the ability to understand the delicate dance of power, loyalty, and survival. And in the face of it all, Mali's legacy lives on, reminding us that the greatest civilizations are not only remembered for their wealth, but for the resilience of the people who built them. As the sun sets on the Mali Empire, you begin to realize that while the empire's political power has waned, its influence on global trade and culture is far from over. Despite the collapse of the empire and the rise of new powers, the legacy of Mali continues to resonate, especially in the realm of commerce and cultural exchange. Even after the empire's decline, its impact on global trade routes and cultural exchanges is profound. To understand how Mali's influence shaped the modern world, you must look at the empire's role in connecting distant civilizations and its contributions to the fields of art, architecture, literature, and religion. Mali's strategic location at the crossroads of trade routes between North Africa, the Middle East, and West Africa made it a key player in global trade. The empire's wealth was primarily derived from its control over the trans-Saharan trade, which connected Africa to Europe and Asia. The merchants of Mali traded gold, salt, ivory, and other commodities, creating a vast network of commerce that stretched from the Mediterranean to the heart of sub-Saharan Africa. These trade routes were not only vital for Mali's prosperity, but also for the exchange of ideas, technologies, and cultural practices. As a merchant in the empire, you would have seen firsthand the diverse array of goods and ideas that flowed into Timbuktu and other Mali cities. Traders from North Africa brought with them not just goods, but also ideas, Islamic knowledge, scientific discoveries, and artistic traditions. The blending of Islamic influences with indigenous African traditions created a unique cultural landscape in Mali, one that is still felt in the region today. The exchange of ideas between the Islamic world and the indigenous African peoples created a cultural and intellectual golden age that would influence generations to come. The wealth from trade allowed the empire to build magnificent cities like Timbuktu, which became renowned for its libraries, universities, and cultural centers. Timbuktu was a hub of intellectual activity, attracting scholars from across the Islamic world. As a student in the city, you would have found yourself studying under some of the greatest minds of the time, learning about astronomy, medicine, law, and theology. The intellectual legacy of Mali, preserved in the thousands of manuscripts that fill the libraries of Timbuktu, continues to shape African scholarship to this day. In addition to its intellectual contributions, the Mali Empire was also known for its impressive architectural achievements. The great mosques of Timbuktu, such as the Djinguereba Mosque, are testament to the empire's ability to blend Islamic architecture with African traditions. These buildings, with their distinctive mud brick construction and intricately designed interiors, remain symbols of Mali's grandeur and cultural sophistication. The architecture of the empire not only influenced the construction of religious buildings, but also shaped the way people lived, with homes and public buildings designed to reflect the social and cultural values of the empire. Mali's influence on the world of art is also profound. The empire was known for its craftsmanship, particularly in the areas of textiles, pottery, and jewelry. Mali's artisans were highly skilled, and their creations were prized throughout Africa and beyond. The empire's art reflected both the wealth of the empire and its cultural diversity. In addition to its traditional African artistic styles, Mali also absorbed influences from the Islamic world, creating a unique fusion of styles that would leave a lasting impact on the region. Perhaps one of the most enduring legacies of the Mali Empire is its contribution to the spread of Islam across West Africa. Mansa Musa's pilgrimage to Mecca is one of the most famous events in the history of the empire, but it is also a symbol of Mali's deep connection to the broader Islamic world. The empire's support for Islamic institutions and scholarship helped to spread Islamic culture and knowledge throughout the region. The influence of Islam can still be seen in the religious practices, art, and architecture of West Africa today. Despite the empire's fall, the legacy of Mali's role in global trade, culture, and knowledge persists. The wealth of the empire, derived from its control over the gold and salt trade, allowed it to become a beacon of learning, commerce, and cultural exchange. The empire's role in connecting Africa to the rest of the world continues to shape the region's relationship with the outside world. Mali's cultural and intellectual contributions have left an indelible mark on Africa and the world, and its legacy continues to inspire and influence future generations. Could you survive in a world where your empire's wealth and influence shape not only your survival, but also the course of history? Could you thrive in a world where the exchange of goods and ideas created a vibrant cultural landscape, but where the collapse of the empire could change everything? In Mali, survival wasn't just about wealth, it was about adapting to a world that was constantly changing, a world where trade, knowledge, and culture could either elevate you or leave you behind. In the end, the Mali Empire's influence on global trade and culture is a testament to the resilience and creativity of its people. The empire's contributions to art, architecture, education, and religion continue to shape the world today. Despite the collapse of the empire, its legacy remains a vital part of history, and the lessons learned from its rise and fall are still relevant in today's globalized world. Though the Mali Empire has crumbled under the weight of its own ambition and the forces that once made it mighty, its cultural and social legacy remains deeply embedded in the hearts of the people. Even though external pressures, such as the rise of the Songhai Empire and the decline of key trade routes, diminished Mali's political and military power, the culture of Mali survived, and it continues to influence West Africa and the broader world today. The survival of this culture and identity, despite the collapse of the empire, is a powerful testament to the strength of the people who lived in the empire and who carry its legacy forward. As you journey through modern-day West Africa, you may notice that the echoes of Mali's empire are still very much alive. From the cities of Timbuktu and Gao to the rural villages, Mali's cultural influence is pervasive. The story of the Mali Empire is passed down through generations not only as a historical narrative, but as a source of pride and resilience. The empire's wealth and the grandeur of its courts may no longer be visible, but its spirit lives on in the people who continue to embrace the values and traditions that made Mali great. The resilience of Mali's culture is most evident in its vibrant oral traditions. Storytelling is an art that has been passed down for centuries, and it plays a central role in preserving the history and identity of the Mali people. As you listen to the griots, the storytellers and historians of the region, you hear the legends of Mali's greatest rulers, its heroes, and its triumphs. The stories of Mansa Musa, his epic pilgrimage, and the grandeur of Timbuktu have become mythic narratives that continue to inspire pride in the people of Mali. But these stories also serve a deeper purpose. They remind the people of Mali of the greatness of their past, the strength of their ancestors, and the lessons learned from the empire's rise and fall. In the modern world, Mali's cultural influence extends beyond the borders of Africa. The empire's rich artistic traditions, from intricate jewelry and textiles to the music that still echoes through the region, have shaped global art and culture. Mali's music, in particular, has had a profound impact on Western music, influencing jazz, blues, and other genres. The sounds of the kora, the balafon, and the ngoni continue to resonate across the world, carrying with them the cultural essence of Mali. These instruments and the rhythms they produce are not just sounds, they are the heartbeat of a culture that refuses to be forgotten. The educational legacy of the Mali Empire also endures. Timbuktu's famous libraries, once a beacon of Islamic and African scholarship, may not be as prominent as they were during the empire's peak, but they laid the foundation for the intellectual and educational institutions that continue to shape Mali's identity. The manuscripts and teachings preserved in Timbuktu continue to inspire scholars and researchers, and Mali's commitment to learning and knowledge remains a point of pride. While the city may no longer hold the same political and cultural clout, its intellectual legacy has persisted through generations, influencing both African and global scholarship. In a world where modernity and globalization threaten to erase cultural identities, the people of Mali have held on to their heritage with remarkable resilience. The traditions, customs, and values that defined the Mali Empire have evolved but remain alive in daily life. In villages and urban centers alike, the influence of the empire is felt in the way people dress, the way they speak, and the way they relate to one another. The pride that comes with knowing that you are part of a great civilization, one that once ruled vast territories and influenced distant lands, is a source of strength that has carried the people of Mali through periods of hardship and uncertainty. Mali's cultural resilience is also evident in the way it adapts to new challenges. As the country faces modern issues such as economic development, political instability, and environmental challenges, the lessons learned from the empire's history continue to guide the people. The Mali Empire may have collapsed, but the resilience of its people, their culture, and their traditions has not. The empire's legacy is a reminder that cultures are not defined solely by political power, but by the strength of their people, the richness of their traditions, and the wisdom they carry forward. Could you survive in a world where the very fabric of culture, history, and identity is in constant flux, where the challenges of modernity and globalization threaten to erase the past? Could you find strength in the stories and traditions that have survived for centuries? In the case of the Mali Empire, survival wasn't just about physical endurance, it was about holding on to the cultural heart of a civilization that refused to be forgotten. The Mali Empire may no longer exist, but its culture, its traditions, and its history continue to live on, not just in the stories of the past, but in the resilience of the people who carry that legacy forward. The story of Mali is far from over. It is a story that will continue to inspire generations to come, a testament to the enduring power of culture, pride, and identity. As you stand at the edge of the once great empire, it becomes clear that the legacy of the Mali Empire is not just defined by its gold or its power. The empire's fall, though painful, only marks the end of an era. It does not erase its profound influence on history, culture, or the people who once lived within its borders. The memories of Mali, the triumphs and tragedies, continue to resonate today, not just in West Africa, but around the world. You begin to understand that the survival of any great empire or any people is not just about wealth or military might. It is about the strength of the culture, the resilience of the people, and the lessons that survive long after the empire's political power fades. Reflecting on the Mali Empire, you realize that it was more than just an economic powerhouse or a center of Islamic scholarship. Mali was a symbol of the enduring human drive to create, to build, and to adapt in the face of both wealth and adversity. The empire's architects, those who built the mosques of Timbuktu, who traded across vast distances, and who forged alliances through conquest, may be gone, but their ideas and their legacy continue to inspire. The empire's achievements in culture, art, and knowledge were not the result of just one ruler or one era. They were the result of generations of people who, despite hardship, came together to create something that would leave an indelible mark on the world. Yet, as we reflect on this mighty empire, it is important to also understand the complexities and contradictions that came with its power. For every merchant who prospered from trade, there was a farmer struggling to survive under heavy taxes. For every soldier who fought to defend the empire, there was a laborer working in the mines with little reward. The Mali Empire, like all empires, was built on both the successes and the suffering of its people. The wealth of the empire was not just a product of gold, it was a product of the labor, the sacrifices, and the struggles of countless individuals. The story of Mali is not just one of grandeur, but one of the human cost of empire building, of survival in a world where power and wealth were always just one misstep away from ruin. As you sit quietly contemplating the empire's fall and its enduring legacy, you realize that the story of the Mali Empire is not just a history lesson, it is a reflection on the human condition itself. The rise and fall of this great empire offer valuable insights into the nature of power, the fragility of wealth, and the resilience of culture. The Mali Empire may have crumbled under the weight of internal strife, external threats, and changing political realities, but its spirit remains alive in the traditions, stories, and identities of the people who once called it home. The people of Mali, both during the empire's height and in the centuries since, have shown a remarkable ability to adapt to changing circumstances. They have endured war, famine, and political upheaval, and yet they continue to draw strength from the cultural and intellectual foundations laid by the empire. Mali's artistic traditions, its rich oral history, and its contributions to the world of science, literature, and religion have influenced generations beyond Africa, leaving a mark on the broader world. The knowledge preserved in the libraries of Timbuktu, the art of Mali's finest craftsmen, and the wisdom of its griots continue to shape the world in ways that can still be seen today. Could you have survived in a world where the balance between wealth and power, culture and survival was constantly in flux? Could you have faced the challenges of living in an empire that rose to greatness and fell into decline, all while trying to carve out a place for yourself in a world defined by gold and salt? The Mali Empire was both a symbol of human achievement and a reminder of the fragility of empires. Its legacy is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and to the idea that even when great civilizations fall, their contributions continue to resonate. Mali may no longer stand as the powerful empire it once was, but its influence lives on. The lessons learned from its rise and fall, the stories of its people, and the achievements of its rulers, scholars, and artists will continue to inspire generations. As you reflect on the Mali Empire's history, you realize that its true strength was not in its riches or its armies, but in its culture, its people, and their ability to survive against all odds. As the echoes of the Mali Empire's rise and fall begin to fade into the soft silence of night, you are left with the realization that the empire, though gone, lives on in the stories it has left behind. The golden wealth, the vast trade routes, the scholarly cities of Timbuktu, all of it, though no longer tangible, remains within the fabric of history. You lie back, allowing the weight of the empire's legacy to gently rest in your thoughts. The empire's greatness wasn't only defined by its wealth or military might, but by its culture, its stories, and the resilience of its people who lived through its glory and its decline. Now, as you begin to feel your body relax, the images of the empire's wealth, its bustling markets, and its grand palaces start to dissolve like a distant dream. The hardships too, the struggles, the sacrifices, and the challenges of survival fade into the quiet murmur of time. You realize that even though the empire's political power has fallen, its legacy will endure, carried by the memories of those who lived through it and the stories that continue to be told. As the night deepens, the soothing rhythms of history gently guide you towards sleep. The Mali Empire, with all its complexities and contradictions, remains a testament to the strength of human spirit and culture. You may not be living in that empire anymore, but the lessons it taught, the stories it shared, and the resilience it demonstrated are a part of you now. Now take a deep breath. Let go of the images of the past, of the rise and fall of empires, and drift into the quiet comfort of sleep. The world of Mali fades away as you find rest, your mind at ease, carrying with it the weight of history's whispers. Good night.